What is up, my fellow guitar addicts? This is Caesar here with Addicted to Guitar, where we are everything and anything guitar. We're here to celebrate guitars, bass guitars, guitar amps, and obviously, as you can see, building guitars. If you have been following us, you've been seeing us build this awesome Stewmac Mini-S style guitar kit. And we are more than halfway done, so I'm pretty excited about that. Today we are going to install the jack. So, for those of you who can see, this is it right here. And I've got my handy soldering iron here. Now, since this is going to be metal on wire, and this one is adjustable, I'm going to have it set to about 275, which I think is a pretty good heat. You don't want it to be too hot, but since we're not really soldering on any kind of digital components or a board, we don't have to make it too soft. So I find if you're doing grounds or you're soldering anything to the back of a knob, like when you're doing the wiring, you probably want it to be 300, 325, and that way you can really get a good melt on it. A lot of times when you're doing things that are a big piece of metal like that, it's hard to get the heat transfer on there enough to get things melted. But when you're doing like a PC board or something delicate where the electrical component's actually attached to it, you definitely want to be somewhere in like the 250, maybe 225 range. So for this, since this jack is really just wire on metal, I figure we can be 275, we're going to be like 275, 280. Let's check out our jack right here. So this is it. And in the prior video, we drilled the holes already. So all we have to do is solder this guy up. So we've got the two wires. These came pre-assembled on this pre-wired pickguard. We've got a black and a yellow. Now usually you can assume that the black is going to be the ground and the yellow is going to be the hot, but let's take a look. So I got my multimeter here. And on this multimeter, I've got the ability to check continuity. So I'm just going to check real quick. If all the ground is connected properly, the ground should reach all the way up to here on the bridge, and it does. So this black wire is our ground. This guy is not. And we can actually check and make sure that that's correctly wired by checking the resistance of the pickups. So I've got it set to ohms resistance, and I've got the volume all the way up, and we'll just check any of the pickups. We'll check maybe this first one here. And I should get some resistance, and I do. I get, let's see what that first pickup's coming in at. 4.8. So that tells us that this pickup is rated at 4.8 kilo ohms. So that actually is a little lower than maybe like your standard 5 or 5 plus resistance, but at least we know that pickup works, and well, since we're here, we'll just check them all. So the middle pickup, let's see what the middle pickup rate's at. Middle pickup rate's at 4.9, and the bridge pickup rate's at 4.9. All right, so that's a good setup, right? The front pickup's a little lighter, a little softer, and then these are both 4.9, so that's pretty cool. So we know black is ground. Now, when you're soldering on the jack, I'm going to show you in this camera so I can get close. This is going to be the ring, and that's going to be with basically the tip, and that's going to be your hot, and then this whole piece will be attached to your ground. So if you take a look at these pieces here, there's a different shape to them. The square one is going to be the ground, and this, I would say, mushroom shaped one is going to be the hot or the positive, and you can actually see in between the two insulators that this square one basically only attaches to this part of the jack, and this one, which is going to be the hot and the ring, it attaches all the way to this guy right here. Alright, so I know it's kind of hard to see in the camera, but that's what we're going to do. These are already pre-stripped, and that's not a bad size. So I think I got my soldering iron hot enough here. So basically what we're going to do is tin these guys. Now make sure you're wearing your good eye protection, and make sure you're in a well ventilated area, because you don't really want to inhale any of this solder here. Alright, so I got my tip of my soldering iron nice and tinned. You can see the smoke coming off of it. And we're just going to put a little bit of solder here on the contacts. Takes a little while for this metal to heat up, but there we go. And you know the metal is nice and hot because the solder doesn't just kind of bubble on it and sit there. It starts to coat it. You can kind of see how it starts to bond to the metal. If you're not getting it to bond to the metal, then you're not going to get a good connection. But if the solder just sits on there and just looks like a piece of round metal on there, then you really didn't get the metal hot enough. And that's why the adjustable irons are so good, because if it's not working for you, you can increase it a little bit. And while we're here, we're going to go ahead and just tin these wires. And for those of you who don't know, tinning means you're just putting a little bit of solder on the wire. And not only does it help get you started and makes it easier, but you're actually heating up the wire a little bit and getting a little bit of solder to kind of sink into it, and it'll help when it finally comes time to attach it. Okay, so like I said, the square one is going to be the ground, and this mushroom one's going to be the hot. This actually isn't going to be very hard at all because we've got it all set up. So real quick, we'll just heat this guy up. Push the wire in through the hole, and then let it cool off. So for the next one, same idea. Heat it up, push the wire through the hole, and then let it cool off. When you push the wire through the hole, you want to angle it a little bit because you really want the wire and the contact metal to touch. And you just want the solder to sit over it and kind of attach them together. You don't want it to be wire and metal and then solder in the middle and that's the only contact, because that's not really a good contact. You want metal on metal and then the solder to coat the entire thing completely. Alright, so that's what we got there. Here's a nice close-up. And with our multimeter, we'll check our job, make sure we've got good contact. So we go to continuity, make sure it works. And let's see, so this whole plate, anything that isn't just the one piece that's attached to what we're called the tip or the hot, should be grounded, and that's where we are. And what we don't want it to sound is when we touch the tip, because that's going to be the hot, and we don't want it to touch ground, because if it touches ground, then we won't hear anything. All right. And we want to check and make sure the positive is good. We'll just check the pickup ohms again. So front pickup, ground, and tip, and we should get, there we go, 4.9, 4.8. I think we called it 4.7 before, so that's pretty close. All right, so we are wired correctly, and everybody got soldered correctly. Okay. I like to be real neat with these things. I do love my multimeters. So all we have to do now is screw it in. We've got it pre-drilled, so that is good. For safety reasons, I'm just going to unplug my soldering iron here, because the last thing I want to do is bump it and burn myself or have it fall on something and catch a fire. Clean off my tip, because you can't work with a dirty tip. Ha 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 ha. That's what she said. Get a nice screwdriver. We want to be nice and clean with our wiring, make sure it sits in there nicely. And when I drilled it, definitely drilled it with it in one particular way, with an angle. There we go. When you're doing little delicate screws like this, I don't recommend you use a drill at all. I recommend you use a screwdriver and uh-oh, I got corona. This might be my last video, guys. You want to make sure that you screw it in nice. You want the screws to go in when you're doing something like this, try not to screw one corner in all the way tight and then screw the other corner in all the way tight. You want to slowly work your way down so it sits right and it kind of finds its perfect little spot there. You don't want to force one corner down and then try to do all four corners. You probably end up with something that doesn't sit quite right. Okay, there we go. Looking good. For the camera, here we go, the money shot. Okay guys, so the last couple things, which isn't much at all, is putting on the string trees and then doing adjustments. So man, we are basically almost done here, almost probably completely, maybe getting it done. It's going to be tremendous. So we're going to install the string retainers, and they tell us that what we need to do that is we're going to install the strings and then we will install the string retainers up here. Alright, so I'm probably not going to bore you with watching me put strings on. I'll just let you know that this bridge is rear installation, it's not through the body. So that's how I'm putting the strings on. And I'm sure if you want to learn how to do that, there's lots of videos that show you, but it's fairly self-explanatory. You put the string through the hole, then you put it up through the saddle of the bridge, and then you wire it up like a string. So we're going to cut, and then when we come back, the strings will be on, and we'll put the string trees on. All right. Woo! Let's do it. All right, so when I'm drilling something this delicate, if you guys have a drill with a with an adjustment here, you want it to be on the lighter side. Gives you a little more control, I find. And we're going to put this farther down here. So unfortunately, my closer camera didn't seem to be on when I was doing these guys, but just for the camera over here, so I can show you guys what I did. Basically, I just pushed down on the string like that with the pencil. Okay? And I did the same thing on this side. All right. And of course, when we're drilling, we want to try to drill straight. And with the pencil, I made a little bit of a guide hole there, so we should sit perfectly in there. Okay. So this came with 2 size spacers. So I'm going to assume the bigger spacer is for the D and G string here. So I'm going to put the spacer on there. You don't want to ever forget to put the spacer on there, because without the spacer, just screwing the string tree to the wood would make that angle so steep. You wouldn't think you would find it hard to keep your guitar in tune, especially when you're bending strings, or if you've got one with a tremolo on it. It is definitely not going to work right. All right, so I'm pretty happy with the way that one came out. Yeah. All right, and then this one has the smaller spacer. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, guitar addicts, my family, friends, and freaks, and everybody stuck at home on quarantine, we're finished. So there is a couple things to do to set it up. They show you how to adjust the truss rod. They show you how to set the saddles. I'm going to show you all that, and we're probably going to do another video because right now I think we're already at the 20 minutes. But I gotta say, we're basically done. So I am very happy with it. I hope you are going to be happy with it too. I hope you are enjoying me watching me build it here, enjoying me watching me build it. That was poor English, but you guys know what I'm saying. I'm excited. I can't talk right. So I'm going to finish putting this guy together, and then like I said, we'll make another video with me setting it up. But yeah, word. So I want to thank you guys for being a part of this, and stop what you're doing right now. If you've watched this video all this way, then you're probably a guitar addict like me. So go ahead and look down there and hit the subscribe button and hit the bell, ringy ringy ring, because at this point you're going to want to be subscribed to the channel. I mean, you just watched me build a guitar for 20 minutes, which means you are probably a guitar addict. All right, guys, thanks for watching.